Dear viewers, welcome to the Youth at Heart Virtual Forum. We are live in the studio at the World Forum in The Hague, and we are here at the very first virtual forum where we're going to talk about youth participation, education and work. I am Melody, and it is my honor to welcome you to Studio Purple. We will have 9 spotlight sessions of each 15 minutes in this studio, and they will all be with different interesting speakers, and they will all be moderated by one of the presenters, which is me. Today we're going to take off the first session with Choice for Youth and Sexuality, and it is about the importance of meaningful youth participation, and specifically in the field of sexual reproductive health and rights and gender. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to your moderator that will take you through this entire session. It is your youth ambassador on SRHR and gender, Lisa de Pachter.
Thanks so much, Melody. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. Today, in this session, we're going to be talking about a topic that is universally relevant to all young people, which is sexuality and gender. I am the Youth Ambassador, and I'm hosting this session on behalf of Choice for Youth and Sexuality. This is a young people's and youth-led organization based in Amsterdam, and we have a bunch of wonderful partners talking in with us today. We have, first of all, Naja. Naja is 24, and she's from Bangladesh, and we're going to be hearing a little bit from her about her work. Welcome, Naja.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. So Naja, you're an expert on youth participation and on SRHR programs in Bangladesh. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work and how that's going?
Of course. So I've been working with Writer Right Now Bangladesh platform for more than 1 year, like 1.5 years. So our focus is the young and adolescent people. So I'm basically working with the SRHR field, and there my experience is that the adolescent and young people's need in SRHR is very important, and the youth participation makes it more fruitful for the young people to join this field, because I met a lot of young people, the youth advocates, while I'm working. I would like to share my personal experience that I went to visit a health center in a very remote area of Bangladesh. There I found some youth advocates who are working to make sure that the adolescents there come to the health centers. So what happens there is that when the young people are working, the parents let their children come to the health center more because they feel confident. Okay, so there are young people working there, so it must be very helpful for them. So this is really what can I say? This brings make more space for the young people to join the SRHR field. And also the meaningful participation of young people is not very common in Bangladesh, because the presence of young people are there, but not always meaningful. But the present work, people are getting in touch with work more meaningfully. Not they're the tokenism thing is it still exists, but young people are now trying to make their voice more powerful. From my own experience, from our platform, we organized a youth summit with more than 300 young people, and there what I found that young people were coming to me for suggestions or with their problems rather than an adult person, because they think I would understand them and I would understand their problem. So they were coming to me that, okay, I'm facing this, I'm facing that. So that is how much important that young people should participate in this area, especially in the SRHR rights. Yeah, there are few problems still exist, and I know this should be changed. like uh, in terms of comprehensive sexuality education, people must know that it is really about, because people still have misconceptions that this is promoting sex before marriage and for young people. So this should be changed. We need to work more on that. And in Bangladesh, there are some taboo topics. For example, abortion. Abortion is prohibited. even after marriage, even after a rape incident, a rape victim cannot ask for abortion even. So these are some things that still needs to be changed, and we are fighting for that. The young people were coming forward to fighting for that. But like we need to think about the safety purpose, the like how we can do and work on this. So this is my experience in the field of SRHR.
Yeah. Oh, this is so inspiring, Naja. Thanks so much for giving us some highlights about your work. And what I'm hearing from you is that actually young people are very connected and working together in Bangladesh to make sexual and reproductive health and rights a universal reality. And what I'm also hearing from you is that there are still quite a lot of challenges, but that you're all working together to make sure that you can overcome them and make SRHR and gender equality a real reality for young people in Bangladesh. Thanks so much for your answer. Stick with me for a little while until the end of the session. I think we're moving on to James now, if I'm correct. I'm hearing that we're having some technical issues. So we're moving over to my co-host, Melody.
Yes, yeah, we are waiting for James. Well, this is a virtual forum, so we have some challenges, but we're trying to call him in. Meanwhile, we do have you here, Youth Ambassador Lisa. And I'm wondering what Raji was saying, how does that resonate with you if you talk about how can we work on gender equality?
Well, as you can see, every context is different. And every country has its own issues with gender equality and with sexual and reproductive health and rights. But at the same time, we're seeing, especially as young people and as young women, so many of the same issues and of the same challenges. I'm a young white woman from the Netherlands, but I also still have trouble sometimes getting my voice out there and still, letting people know what I think about the issues that should be changed. And this is the same for Naja in Bangladesh, and I'm sure that is actually a universal reality for women all around the world. And so that is really at the crux of what we need to get changed and really make sure that meaningful participation counts for young women specifically, because they're the most likely to be left behind.
Yeah. So when we tie it all together, when we talk about meaningful youth participation and to enrich how to gender equality, how do you feel about the peer educator? So we heard your example, and if we get James on, we will hear his example in Uganda as well. But Choice has been really well known for being a youth-led organization and mobilizing other organizations in other countries to also become youth-led and youth-adult partnership. But how do you see peer educators? Because I heard you talk, Naji, about that it's very important in healthcare centers. But there has also been voices about that you need maybe more of a professional, you need more of a doctor to talk to you, that maybe you feel more confident. How do you see that balance between?
Well, for me, I think peer educators are a wonderful concept because it's so sustainable. You start with a young person who understands another young person so much better than anyone else could because they have the same realities. And then when you train that other person on what their issues are about and how they can fix them, they can also go ahead and train someone else of their age. So that's how you sort of create this cycle of peer education, and you sort of mobilize the entire young generation of your community to find their power in themselves. And I think that also resonates with what you said, Naja, about how young people felt more comfortable coming to you with their issues, talking to you, because they saw a fellow young person in you. Maybe if you would like to add something onto that, how do you feel about peer education?
Yeah, especially nowadays, if we call about the millennials or the Gen Z, they're always looking for influencers, someone that can influence them. So I take the youth advocates as influencers because they are influence people, and the other adolescents, they are looking forward to becoming like them, because they're watching them that, oh, they're getting the space, they're talking to this many people, they have their space. So young people tend to follow that. So yeah, of course, an adult person is always experienced and can share a lot of knowledge, but young people can motivate others really well. So peer education is always been successful in our country or some other countries, but peer education is really effective a way to engage people.
Yeah. And can I ask you then, Raji, while we have you here, what challenges do you now see maybe with peer educators, but in general when you talk about the SRHR field in these times of COVID?
Okay, so like the pandemic situations changed a lot in these areas, because in countries like Bangladesh, not like every health centers are well supervised or well equipped So during the pandemic, the people who were giving services were not present, and parents were not thinking about going to the service centers. And SRHR is never the priority of the parents, because if a child, a adolescent girl goes to their parents saying that, okay, I have problems with my periods, they will say it happens to everybody. But in this time of corona, that should be your main focus. You should be stay away from that. So yeah, and also the contraceptives, the like in the people in the village who are living in the village of Bangladesh, they get contraceptives only from the health service centers. So during the pandemic, the service centers were not open all the time. People were not going to the service center to take contraceptive methods and etc. So this will have an effect in the coming population. Maybe we're actually we are not sure yet. There is no exact research or the data, but we're thinking that it will have some effect on the population growth and the whole SRHR thing.
Thank you. Yeah, and can I actually ask you then also, Lisa? So you've been appointed as the youth ambassador. First of all, I would like to hear, of course, what is it exactly, what are you doing? But I can also imagine you weren't really encountering to start this off with a global pandemic and how that works out now for you.
You could say that. Yes, so as a youth ambassador, I make sure, and this is always my slogan, that the lived realities of young people worldwide, especially as it comes to gender and sexuality, are reflected in Dutch foreign policy. And that means whatever plans we make at the Dutch ministry, whatever we decide, should also have some kind of youth voice in there. And that can be me, because those policies probably won't apply to me as a Dutch woman, but they will apply to young people all around the world. And so that's why it's extra important that their voices and their needs are reflected in that policy, so that we can really find solutions for what they need in their lives daily.
Yeah, and then if I can ask you, because this youth forum, this virtual forum that you can all also engage with us through the chat box, and we had some questions that I've been asking now, but we have a lot of people watching. We have young people watching, youth organizations, but we also have policy developers watching. What would be your takeaway for them? What would you like to give them on why it's so important to engage youth in specifically SRHR?
SRHR, sexual and reproductive health and rights and gender, are even more relevant for young people, and even more today. Health services are not always accessible for young people, especially reproductive health services, but now even with COVID, that might even be harder. And so my main message to them would be, this is a youth forum that is kickstarting meaningful youth participation, but then take the example and involve us structurally. We can't just be there one day a year or at a single forum and then, be like, oh, well, thanks, and we'll move on.
Bye.
Yeah, no, we have to be there every single day, because all policies, no matter what, are relevant to young people, and they always need a young person's voice in there.
Great. Well, before we round up, because we're really coming close, and I'm very sorry we couldn't get James involved. The last thing I want to ask you, so sexual reproductive health and rights is very important, but how does it tie to youth employment and to work, what we're for here at the Youth Forum?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very easy answer. If you have the tools to plan your future, and also in terms of how many children you want, when you want, and how many you want, then you can also plan when you want to get a job and when you want to go study. And that means if you're 19 and you get pregnant unwanted, and you didn't have the chance to actually prevent that pregnancy, that also means that you might be prohibited from going to university, or might not be able to get a job very soon because you're taking care of your baby.
Yeah, so it's all about planning your future and taking control in your hands.
It really
Thanks a lot, Nadia and Lisa, and thanks, well, sorry we couldn't have James, but thank you all also for watching this session, and we hope to get back to you from Voices from Uganda in the other sessions. Stay tuned with us for the next session with SOS Children's Villages about youth employment again. Thank you, and thank you.
Hi, welcome to Youth at Heart Virtual Forum. My name is Marcel and I'm here at the World Forum in The Hague. And we're here in Studio Purple, where we will have 9 spotlight sessions, where we have different organizations in the spotlight for 15 minutes exactly. And this session, that will be SOS Children's Villages, of which 2 people are here with me in the studio. Malou van Nieuwkoop from the Next Economy program and Stefan van der Zwaluw, program manager of SOS Children's Villages. And here on the screen is Deborah Olujobi. You are calling in from Nigeria. A very warm welcome to you too.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. We can hear you very clearly. That's very nice. Malou, let me start with you, because this session we're going to talk about youth transitions to work, and we're going to discuss this program, the Next Economy program. First of all, what's your role in this program?
Yeah, so I work for Crosswise Works, and we're together in a consortium with SOS Children's Villages. I work as a program manager from Crosswise side. So this means we are in close contact with our local partners. So for example, Deborah is at Fate Foundation now in Lagos. So I make sure that everything on the 6 locations we're rolling this program is working perfectly.
Okay, we'll see a video of the program now in a minute. What will we see in this video?
Yeah, it's an awesome example of a couple of our participants who now successfully transitioned into work or have started their own business.
Let's see the video first, and after which we'll talk with the 3 of us, 4 of us.
Hi guys, my name is Simsim Otman and I'm a proud businesswoman. I know that you are wondering why I am proud. It's a natural thing when you have a business, you feel like you have a power. And when you have a power, you feel proud. I have learned from program skills that make me to become a businesswoman. And those skills are financial skills, business management skills, strategic thinking.
The Next Economy program helped me to start up my own poultry farm as a lucrative business. The barriers I had overcome include lack of confidence and risk avoidance. But now I'm ready to take a risk and keep going in my business. Before I started my own business, I was very poor, but currently I am fully enough and I'm supporting now my family and friends and even my community to contribute their financial income. Thank you.
Concerning this program, my considerations were higher due to my situation because at that time I was jobless and I didn't have the perfect skills to look for a job and I was not oriented in the job market. Yes, I am from a poor family. The reason why in a moment my life has been very complicated and full of hopeless because for me the unique and the only choice was being farmer.
program because my sister, who is an alumni, actually spoke a lot about it. And I was eager and enthusiastic about learning, unlearning, and relearning a lot of things. Besides the job I got in the long run, the past 1 year since I left my comfort zone has led me on a journey to self-discovery, self-awareness, and all-round growth, financially, socially, personally, and professionally. To make this a success, I had to maximally utilize a couple of skills, from critical thinking, problem solving, to organization, adaptability, communication, and then to emotional intelligence, because I really needed all of this to put myself together, get out there, and achieve my goals. I am excited I actually left my comfort zone. Now this is my TNA story, and I wish every other youth out there would utilize opportunities too, like I did. Thank you.
Good to see. Stefan, can you tell me, as a general manager, why is this such an important program for you guys?
Well, we work with children that have usually a very small support circle. Mm-hmm. They may have no family, or their family is far away and can't take care of them. And also the youth that they engage with basically have a similar background. And then try to imagine how difficult it is to find a job. Where did you find your first job? It's because a friend worked in a pizzeria and got you in. Or your father knows someone who can give you a traineeship. That's often how it works. And these youth often don't have that support circle. Yeah. And that's why we're so happy that the Dutch government supported us in this program, because we help these children to get included in the rest of the economy.
Deborah, you're with us via video, so I can imagine we have a little bit of latency, but let me ask you this. You have participated in this program in 2018. Now you're a successful entrepreneur. Let's start there. What do you do nowadays?
Okay, so what I do nowadays as an entrepreneur, and with the skills that I've gotten from the program. So I try to increase my knowledge in my industry as a knitwear fashion designer, and also try to create more awareness for the fashion industry in Nigeria. And not just that, also make sales. Obviously, I have to make sales as a successful businesswoman.
Very good. Can you tell us something about how the program helped you to become this entrepreneur you're now?
Okay, so for the program, it was the best foundation I could ever get for my business, because I entered the business with just very little business knowledge from a little experience that I've gotten. But with the Next Economy program, it set the foundation for me. I got the necessary business skills, learned how to build a brand, learned how to provide solution as a business, and also learned how to be confident, because for you to be able to run a business, build a brand, you have to be confident. And I got all of this from the Next Economy program.
So this was 2 years ago, 2018. Can you tell us something about what this has meant for you so far?
Okay, so I joined the program in 2018, and also went through a second phase of the program in 2019. And for the first time, the Next Economy Impact Award was created, and I came out as the winner for the Lagos Hub. And this funding has done a lot for my business. I've been through even through the Next Economy program, I was able to get my first set of equipment. And the next set of funds I got as the winner of the Impact Award actually opened a huge door for my business. So I've been able to get necessary equipment, more equipment, and necessary increase more grants for the growth of my business.
Thanks, Deborah. We'll be back with you in a minute. Malou, For the people watching, they might think, well, there are several programs doing this, helping young entrepreneurs, helping people find work they're skilled for. How is this program different from other programs?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think many programs have a sort of singular approach where you focus on an industry. In the Next Economy, we let our participants decide themselves. So we've built it up as a funnel. We started with soft skills. Deborah is already saying about the confidence, for example. After that set of training, they can decide themselves whether they want to go for an internship and hopefully land a decent job, or they can start their own business, as Deborah did. We facilitate entrepreneurship training. They can start crowdfunding a little bit for their startup capital. Impact Awards is a part of that. So based on that funnel line of thinking, we're supporting the entire ecosystem.
So you give a lot of room for own decisions.
Exactly.
To the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Can you, all three of you, answer me why young people do need support in entrepreneurship? Deborah, let's start with you. Why is it so important that that happens?
Okay, it's actually very important because a lot of people actually are not sure if they want to continue to do a job, get a job, or they want to actually start a business. Because the time that they go through university, most of the things that are actually done, the kind of experience that they get is mostly academics. So you don't have that practical experience of either doing a job or doing a business. So this kind of program gives a support to that youth to be able to make a decision if he or she wants to get a job or to start a business. And if the decision is to start a business, you know what you're supposed to put in place. And if you need to get a job, you know what skills that you need to acquire to get a job. And that's why this youth need the support to be able to make the right decisions.
Malou, Stefan, do you agree? Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, all youth are in transition. They're transitioning from childhood to independent adulthood. And children in general need support in that. But imagine that you've grown up in an orphanage, or you've grown up in a family that is very weak and vulnerable and lives on the outskirts of society and finds it very difficult to participate. Your first job, and you come home and your boss has been nasty to you, is asking all kinds of questions and you don't really know how to answer, then it's the support circle that helps you go through it and gives you tips and advice and gives you a tap on the shoulder and gives that general feeling you're doing well and you're learning. And that's what a lot of youth are lacking. So for those vulnerable youth, that support circle is something that they need, especially in the early stages of their career.
What's the most important takeaway for other organizations? What should they do?
It's listening to the youth, as Mlo already said. When children come into the program, they might have this fantastic idea about becoming an entrepreneur and starting their business, and then they find out that the whole risky management is not for them at all. And for them, it's much better to be in paid employment, and then they can excel.
We got to round up. We've got to listen as well to our people here. We are going to the next session in a couple of minutes, which will be the Youth Cooperation Hub. My name was Marcel. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Malou. Thank you, Stefan. And thank you for watching.
Welcome viewers to the third session already. Time is going very fast. We are at the Youth at Heart Virtual Forum, live from the World Forum studio in The Hague. And this entire virtual forum, we are going to talk about youth employment, education and work, and we're going to put youth at the center of it. We have different speakers and different organizations with us today to discuss this. My name is Melody, I'm one of your presenters, and we have in total 9 spotlight sessions of each 15 minutes to take you through these different topics. You can interact with us by putting your comments and questions in our chat box or interacting with us through social media by using our hashtag YAH2020, Youth at Heart 2020. The next session will be about the AU-EU Corporate Youth Cooperation Hub, and that one will be actually moderated for you by Dennis and Jorik. They will take you through the importance of putting youth as development agents. So let me take a step back and introduce you to the moderator that will guide you through this entire session. Here is Jorik.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and very happy to be here today. Today we would like to focus a little bit more on youth participation in decision-making, accountability and governance, and therefore would like to present you the AU-EU Youth Cooperation Hub. My name is Jorik Bruins. I'm part of the business cluster of the AU-EU Youth Cooperation Hub, and I've got a background in agriculture and food systems, and I'm currently in the lead in a startup here in the Netherlands, connecting farmers and consumers alike. But enough about me, let's talk a little bit more about us and what we try to do. We've seen in recent years a scream, or at least a demand, of young people around the world for more active participation in decision-making processes. Something that also has been embedded more and more in national and even continental levels. Also at the AU and the EU. However, too often still, young people are only on the sidelines or mostly maybe consulted upon when it is about them, instead of them being the central actors of the change they believe in, and also central actors of what they want to achieve and they want to be. Youth has already proven to have the solution to 21st century problems, solutions that are about our future. However, still too often, it is only on the sidelines, and therefore the AU and the EU has, in consultation with the European Commission, kickstarted the AU-EU Youth Cooperation Hub, which we're part of. To give a bit more of an insight, let's have a look at the video. And the proof is in the pudding. It's important for youth to be actors and co-creators and not just recipients. And that's something that we've been trying to prove since 2017, since the Abidjan Declaration, where by all heads of state of Africa and the European Union, there was a clear vision for more youth-led initiatives. The Hub, since then, since 2018, when we were involved, has actively created and monitored projects across the African continent. Projects that were supposed to, and are now proving to be, tackling challenges common to the AU and the EU, to youth on both continents. As an example, our own cluster, the business and job creation cluster that I'm part of, we have, since that we've written the proposals, also picked the CSOs, the civil society organizations part of it, and have now been monitoring and amplifying the message of, in this case, creating 8 incubators that are focusing on renewable energy and agriculture across 5 countries in the Sahel and West Africa. And we're now halfway there to really prove that something youth-led can be at the core of change. But enough about the theory. Let's go a little bit more into practice. I would like to introduce or ask my colleague, Dennis, to take the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Jorik, for the wonderful introduction and for the really comprehensive overview of what the Hub is. So my name is Dennis from the AU-EU Youth Hub, and my background is in aerospace, so planes, satellites, robots, and cloud technologies. And I work as part of the AU-EU Youth Hub, the digital cluster in particular, where I work as part of a team where we're responsible for the mainstreaming of digital technology into the various projects that all the clusters and their partner civil society organizations are implementing. And for this particular segment, we're going to drill a bit deeper into one of the projects that we believe is representative of innovative ways in which youth can actually come together from Europe and Africa to implement and effect change. So in particular, we're going to focus on the governance project. And for us, to guide us through this particular segment, we've invited our colleague from the Hub as well. Her name is Mildred, joining us all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. And she will talk us through the project that we're talking about. She will tell us the implementation details, who the stakeholders are involved, the timelines, and also give you an overview of what the Hub is, the governance class of the Hub is. So Mildred, kindly take it away.
Thanks, Dennis. So hi, my name is Mildred Zhao. I am a youth and governance expert with a focus on youth and women, specifically on building accountability systems where the role of citizens is very key in terms of bringing together transparency and accountability by our governments and institutions. I'm a member of the governance cluster, and as Dennis has mentioned, I will be digging deep in today just to find out more about the inclusion version of this segment in the governance project.
Thank you. So Mildred, I have a couple of questions for you just to provide a bit more context with regard to the project. So what did the governance cluster have in mind when you came together 2 years ago? What did you aim to achieve?
Thanks, Dennis. So basically, we had a few PowerPoints that we were thinking about when we created the vision for the governance cluster. And this was primarily based on the fact that societies where we have accountable, transparent, and inclusive leadership and public participation in decision-making, this tends to enjoy more development and better service delivery for the citizens and the populace. And so based on this, we wanted to create a meaningful way for young people to be able to get involved in governance processes, as this is not traditionally something that young people know how to get involved in or are interested in getting involved in. We envisioned, this concept that we called the Include Me approach, and this was primarily based on having young people platform have access to information to be able to come together and actively participate in decision making. It's primarily based on SDG 16, which is more about providing access to justice for all and building accountable institutions.
Oh, great. So tell me a bit more about this project, because from what I understand, there's a bit of an unusual twist to what is normally a governance project.
So last year we launched our project, which is called Sauti Youth. In Swahili, Sauti means voice. And so together with our partners, World Vision Ireland and World Vision Tanzania, as well as Youth Work Ireland, we were able to create and come up with the task of bringing governance processes to the issue of climate change. This is an issue that a lot of young people are super passionate about, and we wanted to move our passion beyond our strikes in the Fridays for Future climate strikes and bring this back to the governance processes about it. So the project basically has a model that we're calling the Citizen Voice and Action model, and this model allows young people to actually find out information about specific commitments that their governments from a national level to a local level have made on climate change and be able to hold their governments to account in delivering these commitments. So we realize that it's very hard for young people to ask for accountability if first they don't know what the information is. What are we holding ourselves accountable to? What commitments have our governments made on our behalf to be able to play a part in, tackling climate change? So having this information through this model, and then also using this information to channel their interest and their accountability mechanisms through local social audits and follow-up with both local authorities and the community in which they work in. It's really interesting because we're doing this in 2 continents and are finding that, in as much as, we live in different geographical positions, the interests around climate action and how it affects us are the same. So it's a really interesting dynamic to be able to bring this across both continents.
Thank you, Mildred. I don't know if you can see me. I'm also here in the studio. And I saw that we had a very interesting question coming in the chat from Rwanda for you. You talked a little bit about it, and also you talked about it, that you don't want to be tokenistic. We are talking here to really talk about youth participation in a meaningful way. So the question is, how can you ensure that your approach is Global South inclusive and that it doesn't become tokenistic, not in the youth sense, but also not in the Global South sense?
I think one of the main things about being inclusive is not just bringing in young people when we think that we want to have an opinion. One way that the Hub has been able to do this is bringing young people from the point of creation. So from the point of creating this pilot and conceptualizing it, understanding what the priorities of young people are and what roles and skills do they have to offer at this point is really important. So it's a collaboration more than a consultation. So that's really important in terms of being able to bring young people at the forefront and working with them throughout an entire process.
Great, thank you, Mildred. Last remarks, because with an eye on the clock, we do have to almost round up. But can I ask you, Dennis and Jörg, do you have something to add on to that?
Thanks a lot, Mildred. I'll just make a quick comment. There's a digital aspect to this project, and we as a digital cluster support not just her project, but also basically the 6 other clusters. Mm-hmm. And our role is not just limited to the mobile tools that we create for the collection of field information that Mildred's project needs, but also for the creation of platforms that allow for the representation of this information so that all the stakeholders involved can actually track the development that's going on. We're also involved in creating platforms for bringing together different stakeholders for knowledge management. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in the Yorick's case, we support his cluster where we bring together venture capitalists and small businesses and entrepreneurs. Yeah. So we're able to make sure that development happens.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have to dive into round up this session. I feel we are not done yet, so please continue on the chat and let's keep this discussion going on, maybe through social media. I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank you, Dennis, Mildred, and Jorik. And stay tuned with us. We are coming back with the youth climate movement. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to you all watching. Welcome in the virtual forum, Youth at Heart, here in The Hague from the World Forum. And this is the Purple Studio. Probably you're watching via our platform, on which you're highly invited to interact with us. So ask your questions to the people in our studio and let us know your suggestions for any discussion. In this studio, we will have 9 spotlight sessions in total, of which this will be the one about youth and climate. In this session, we will talk about We Are Tomorrow Global Partnership. In the studio are Cerise Kooijman and Mark Damen from the Dutch Youth Climate Movement. But first, as an introduction, we'll see a video explaining what we're going to talk about.
We are tomorrow.
Somos el mañana.
إحنا المستقبل.
We are tomorrow. We are tomorrow.
Nosotros somos el mañana. Nosotros somos acción.
Thank you, Marcel. So we are the We Are Tomorrow Global Partnership, a collaboration of 10 countries and growing. And this was set up a year ago to empower youth voices and to strengthen cross-border youth networks. But most importantly, we write collaborative and constructive youth visions and action plans with which we aim to influence policymakers. So the aim specifically of these plans is directed at the nationally determined contributions where youth organizations work locally to enhance ambitions globally. Today we have invited 4 of our partners to the studio to talk about their plans as well as answer your questions. So start typing these in the chat below. And first of all, we have our partner from Bangladesh, Sohan, calling in.
Yes.
Hi, Sohan, welcome. So, since 2016, your organization, YouthNet for Climate Action, is active in 25 districts of Bangladesh, and where you started with traditional activism, such as organizing climate strikes, you've now also moved to, for example, reaching out to more than 2,000 vulnerable families during COVID-19, or aiding in the response to Cyclone Amphan. So could you tell us what exactly is the importance of this hands-on approach, specifically regarding vulnerable communities?
Thank you. I am Shonur Rahman, Coordinator YouthNet for Climate Justice and founding member of Fridays for Future movement. Research and practice commonly represent young people as passive victims of any disasters, while we are always directly impacted. Bangladesh, especially its coastal regions, is most vulnerable to climate change-induced natural disaster. Furthermore, half of the population consists of young people. We want to change the traditional view that development actors and political parties of young people from foot soldiers to change agents. To achieve this, we collect input from the often unheard voice of marginalized rural communities and facilitate youth-led action to find climate and environmental solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sohan. Moving west, there is Maureen from Nigeria. She's not here. That's unfortunate. Then I think we continue with the...
In that case, we can continue with the video because you are explaining that those are examples of the things that happen in other countries. And we have a video that explains how this is a global partnership where all these partnerships, all these individual efforts come together. Let's watch that video first.
Bangladeshi young people participation in the decision making is very limited. Working with government to engage more young people in the decision making. Global partnership means global cooperation. Global partnership means global solidarity. Youth at Heart conference will bring more opportunity for young people to engage young participation in decision making.
Thanks to this partnership, we can increase the international reach of our message. Also, we can learn from the experiences of other countries, and it helps us to connect with more decision makers and high-level officials to create powerful alliances in order to promote an inclusive environmental agenda. The We Are Tomorrow Global Partnership plays a crucial role in the achievement of these goals.
We think it's important to take into account as many youth voices as possible, as we are advocating for those youth voices towards politicians and companies. This allows us to have an even better and constructive conversation with a good and convincing story. The global partnership is very important because big decisions are being made today about our tomorrow. Nice. Moving east, there is Joanita in Uganda. Joanita, welcome. So the government of Uganda announced 7 municipalities as new cities as part of their development plan. Why is it important that youth are included in that development?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for this question. Now, the smart city discourse in the African context has progressed controversially between the proponents and the critics. On one hand, smart cities are being promoted as an initiative to modernize the built environment as a better place to live, work, and do business. But on the other hand, it's predicted that the agenda is capable of widening the existing exclusion, marginalization, and spatioeconomic inequality. So we have therefore started youth cities learning exchange and development dialogues themed to create inclusive urban spaces where young people are included in the newly created cities decision-making to highlight and contribute to building the cities they want. So in the dialogues, we unravel the following critical questions. Among others is if the new urban agenda and the green growth strategy as key frameworks are the best solutions to ensure sustainable cities and guide in urban development, and also getting into context the current socioeconomic realities that cities are facing, and as well identifying key challenges and opportunities in these cities. So we continue to engage young people in contextualizing the city agenda. So as at the dialogues, we ideate around how cities can be designed, how they can be managed, created, financed, and implementation of the development plan. So we find the need to brainstorm on how institutions as well and governance mechanisms promote the development of inclusive, resilient, and sustainable cities. So in short, these questions are to position youth with knowledge on cities to advocate for their inclusion in the development of these new cities, to not only widen the existing exclusion, marginalization, and spatioeconomic inequality, but also identify the opportunities for young people to contribute to building sustainable cities. These dialogues therefore call for the authorities to have us take part in building the cities we want. We hope that with this, we shall have a better future because we are actually tomorrow.
Thank you, Joanita. As always, you're doing amazing work over there in Uganda. Next, we would like to move south to South Africa, where we have Tyler waiting for us. Thank you for calling in. So Tyler, I know you two are doing really great work, and you have been working over these past few months on a youth climate action agenda. So could you tell us about the development process and also the plans you have?
Yes, thank you for the question, Cerise. So the Youth Climate Action Plan started off with the aim to create a plan for youth organizations, schools, universities, and policymakers on how to incorporate youth in climate policies, as well as put the systems in place that will enable the future and shape the future that we actually want. Our recent work on the YCAP it served as a youth contribution to the City of Johannesburg's Climate Action Plan. So we've basically formulated a youth input that's going to directly feature in the city's CAP document. To develop this CAP, or this YCAP as we've been calling it, we started off with workshops and storytelling and getting people to share their climate story and why they actually care about climate change or why they got into the space. Then, following up from that, we had sessions, we pulled together a drafting team, and we had sessions on where we brought together key ideas on sustainable development and climate action practices, which lead to the development of key principles that will establish and underpin the future we want. We cannot address climate change without an intersectional approach that includes meaningful youth participation in decision-making spaces, and hence intersectionality, systemic change, accessibility, and sustainability are the underlying principles of what we want in our future. The time to act with youth and for youth is now.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in from Uganda and also from South Africa. We have to quit the talking to South Africa and Uganda right now because we have to make clear the lines. But for now, we can talk about what the youth climate movement does and why this global partnership on the We Are Tomorrow global partnership is so important, because these were 4 examples of other countries doing their thing. A couple of years ago, the Dutch youth climate movement was founded. Where does it stop? Where are you? What are you working towards?
Well, yeah, we put a lot of effort in youth participation, because now there are a lot of things being decided about our future without including what we think of our future.
And we
so
is
we the youth.
Yeah.
So if that's like. If we are included in decision making for all kind of policies, then we're done.
Yeah.
But that's not the case yet.
Yep.
So what's the moment you're working towards?
So we're definitely focused on the COP, obviously, next year, because we really are looking for that platform where we can have more structural youth participation, and we really would like to see the youth as a player that is taken seriously at the table as well. And of course, countries differ in their situations, which is why we really enhance the importance of the local aspect, the grassroots youth organizations.
Okay.
But really, what we really want to achieve is that the youth is structurally participating in the important rooms.
Okay, I hope to hear from you then. Make your voices as loud as possible. And for now, we're going on to the next session and rounding up this session. Thank you very much, Mark, and also Cerise.
Thank you.
For the next session, we will be talking to our R&W about digitalization and youth employment. See you then.
Welcome back to the Youth at Heart Virtual Forum. We are here again live in the studio at the World Forum in The Hague, and we are having a lot of discussions with different organizations about youth participation, work and education. This is the Spotlight sessions. We are in Studio Purple, where we have a total of 9 Spotlight sessions of each 15 minutes. At this moment right now, I will talk with RNW Media, and we are going to dive a bit more into the digital upskilling against the odds. The Dutch Advisory Council on International Affairs had come out with recommendations on digitalization and youth employment in Africa. And in a run-up to this event, to the Youth at Heart Forum, there was a webinar organized on October 15th, where they talked a bit about the digital skills and the decent jobs for youth on the one hand, but also digitalization and youth employment on the other. And that specific webinar was focused on the sub-Saharan African context, where internet penetration is quite weak. Today, we want to take it further and talk about what happens when you go to the North African context, where internet penetration is a bit better. So to have that discussion, I'm here live in the studio with Roos Hogekamp. You are Innovation and Knowledge Manager and Global Development at Nuffic. We will have 3 more speakers with us to talk about this, but I will introduce them right after we watched an animation about the recommendations to give us some insights.
Economies are digitalizing. How can digitalization work for youth employment in Africa? There are challenges. Job options are poor, and most youth work in the informal sector. Internet access is low. Devices and data plans are expensive, with electricity unreliable, and young people lack digital skills. Young women and those vulnerable face a bigger digital gap. Plus, internet governance is lacking. Tech companies are monopolizing the internet with net neutrality at stake, and internet freedom is increasingly restricted. How can Dutch development policy ensure digitalization delivers for young people in Africa? There are upcoming trends. There's more awareness of internet governance and protecting data and rights online. There are more infrastructure projects, but there's a need to regulate the companies leading them. Local innovation is getting around challenges, and people are looking to the online space for learning and education. In addition, new models are emerging for nurturing tech startups and skills. The Advisory Council on International Affairs recommends the government of the Netherlands to invest in accessible and affordable internet for all as a public good, protecting online freedoms, developing young people's skills, promoting online education, supporting sectors to digitalize and create jobs, and last but not least, investment can go to helping young entrepreneurs to formalize and grow their businesses. Of course, let's make sure we hear young people's views.
Thank you. Yes, so I welcomed you already, Roos. Thank you, live in the studio. And we have 3 more people hanging with us to have this discussion. Welcome. We have Linda Broekhuizen. You are CEO at FMO, which is a Dutch entrepreneurial development bank. And then we have Amer Mohammed. Welcome. You are tuning in from Egypt, as we are going to talk about the North African context. And we have Amjad Badr Shwehdi, I hope I pronounce it well, ICT for Development Specialist, and you co-founded Hexa Connection in Libya. So we will be diving a bit deeper into your context as well. But first of all, if I can turn to you, Linda. We just watched a little animation that is known by you. Is there something you want to add on that, or is there a link that you can make with the webinar that you had on October 15th?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, we saw in what is not shown in the report or in the video, that having a context of good internet penetration does not necessarily mean that there's better opportunities for young people. And more needs to be organized and more needs to be done to get to that level. And we will hear some examples now going forward to see in North Africa what would be needed for that.
Yeah, and can I then, well, let's move to North Africa then. Amr Mohammed, can I ask you, how is it in Egypt, the internet penetration, and does it resonate what Linda is saying about youth possibilities?
Yeah, thank you. In Egypt, the penetration rate is good in general. Internet penetration rate in Egypt stood at 54% in January 2020. Despite the promise of digitalization, youth unemployment needs critical attention. Youth unemployment in Egypt is estimated at 31%, like 40% among women and 26% among men. Challenges youth encounter include lack of employability and soft skills, language and computer skills, also the quality of education, lack of qualified faculty and staff, lack of practical trainings and internships, and for sure outdated tools and methodologies are considered the main obstacles to acquire a decent job. Furthermore, low wages, lack of opportunities, and long working hours usually hinder youth abilities.
Yeah, so it takes more than only good internet penetration, as Linda was saying as well. So we know that the youth have taken to the street in protest, and they are really trying to take their agency about this. What more are you doing in Egypt?
Yes, I'm going to talk about Masarat, a youth-led project powered by RNW Media. It's an Arabic media platform where young people can access and engage with reliable and relatable information on educational, technical, and other skills required to get ahead and be economically empowered and included in their societies. Young people also engage and support each other through the platform and social media channels, and also through working with local partners. The platform also helps connect young people to the relevant services available in their region in order to increase their economic opportunities. For example, in April 2020, Masarat launched a new program, a new training and employment program called Masarat Youth Employment Habilitation Program. The program is especially designed to coach young Egyptians and guide them step by step into paid employment. The program received more than 2,000 applications, and till now 250 youth from all over Egypt have graduated till now. The program is for new graduates and starters on the job market, who especially now during the COVID-19, as you know, who are not mobile enough and lack the networks and the means to access the job market. By end of this program, young people will be more aware of their assets, are able to present themselves with professional online profiles and resumes, and be aware of the opportunities ahead and raise their confidence enough.
So a lot is actually happening in Egypt by the youth, but also by creating the digital platform. Roos, if I can ask you, Nuffic also works in different regions and they also work in Egypt. Could you tell us a little bit more about what Nuffic does in Egypt, but also if you had to think a bit more outside of the box, what could you do to increase the impact for young people?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you, Melody and Linda and Amar for your previous remarks. And let me start by saying that there is no magic formula that instantly dissolves in what you described as a critical problem. And we strongly support the AIV recommendation that skills required in the digital economy should be well integrated into education. And indeed, we are active in Egypt, but also in the wider MENA region, and we focus on reforming the higher and vocational education sector to create a skilled and competent workforce, aligned to what the labour market needs, for instance, in sectors such as water, health, and agri-food. And we reform in 4 different ways. First of all, by equipping students and teachers alike with practical competences and skills. Second, by adapting curricula to make them labour market proof with attention for digitalisation. And third, by developing training courses on entrepreneurship and relevant cutting-edge digital technologies, for instance around big geodata on water and food security. And finally, by establishing on-campus business incubators like we have done in Jordan to help young entrepreneurs to start up their own businesses. And while doing this, we firmly believe in joint efforts and equal partnerships.
Thank you. So yeah, again, you keep coming back. It takes a lot more than internet penetration, and it takes a lot more to when you work on a youth employment. So if I take that to you, Amjad, I'm curious still, even though it takes more, how is the internet penetration in Libya? And could you also say, have a few more remarks on what was said earlier? How do you think the situation is in Libya on that?
All right. In Libya, the internet penetration rate is good, despite on the ongoing conflict and political crisis. Yet more than 50% of the young people are unemployed due to the lack of opportunities and the skills gap.
And how are the youth there responding in Libya to that? Are they also going into protests? Are there more digital platforms? Are they claiming their own agency?
Hexa Connection, a youth-led NGO, is trying to make a difference under the umbrella of ICT4D, aiming to end the digital illiteracy. Projects including multi-stakeholder collaboration, working on a wide spectrum, but always forming on axis of development, tech and education. For example, the Libyan US Space Camp in 2019 featured the first ever Libyan robotic championship for youth. Moreover, projects also lean into stimulating creative thinking as well as teaching computer and programming fundamentals. And at other times, we also organize job forums, meetups, and hackathons to find solutions to our local challenges.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I see that we have a question coming in from the chat box. I'm going to ask it to Linda, but anyone else can also respond to it. So we are talking a lot about how to use digitalization in creating more job opportunities. But what digital skills do you think youth need for themselves to be more employable?
Yeah, we heard that access to internet is not necessarily providing jobs. So we see in many countries in Africa and also in North Africa, it is not easy to find a job for young people and for youth. And this is what we try to support as FMO, to stimulate people to start their own businesses if it's not possible to find a job. And yeah, to start your own business, you really need to have basic skills in understanding technology and digitalization. And there is a lot that you can do by learning it yourself. And the platforms that we're talking about as RNW can help if youth and young people can learn from each other and engage in online skills trainings that are widely available. And as FMO, we also want to support this and support young people to educate themselves and have a smaller gap in digitization, particularly also for women who have a harder access than men, even from that perspective.
Yeah, thank you. So also you talked a bit more about what FMO can do to support those things. With an eye on the clock, I see we do have to round up, although we could go on a bit more about what is all needed. But if I can ask Amer and Amjad, can you, in this virtual forum, we have, of course, a lot of organizations watching. We have a lot of youth watching. So for youth, it's very interesting to hear a bit more about what digital skills they could be empowered on or learn. But if we talk more about the policymakers or the development agencies that are watching, what would you like to tell them from your own organization, the platforms that you've created? What would you like to have them as a takeaway? Can I ask you first, maybe, Amer, and then we go to you?
Sure. For me, as I said, unemployment is a severe challenge for Egyptian youth, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's clear that building young people's capacities and connecting them with opportunities in the labor market are crucial to decrease unemployment, the unemployment rate among youth. Furthermore, we need to work differently and leverage both technological and non-technological solutions to reach marginalized youth effectively. All available resources should be used to decrease unemployment among youth and improve their socio-economic status, and that's how we can keep youth always at heart.
Thank you. Amjad, shortly for you, something to add on that or anything else on what you want to give away?
Yeah, we are in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. There must be a new way of thinking and a progressive approach for further opportunities, where we should invest more in developing the ecosystem and connecting the unconnected dots.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we have to round up very quickly because we're a bit over time, but thank you all for joining us and stay tuned for the next session with FMO on financing youth entrepreneurship. Thank you all.
Welcome, you're back with us here at Youth at Heart virtual forum from the World Forum in The Hague. This is the Studio Purple. It doesn't look purple, but it is, believe me. And here we have 9 spotlight sessions in which we give organizations the spotlight for exactly 15 minutes. And during this session, we will be talking about how to finance entrepreneurs. And I will be talking to 2 people. First guest will be Louise Beum from the Massive Fund at FMO. And the second guest is Jamal Kayat from ChangeLab. He's one of the co-founders of ChangeLab, and he is also responsible, for example, for the Changemaker Festival. Well, I'll come back to you, Jamal, in a moment. First, to start with you, Louise, what does FMO do? What do you do at the Massive Fund?
Yes, so I'm Louise Beum, and I studied investment banking, financing, but I even went for investment banking. And I currently work for FMO, which is financing development projects in the global south. So to make it very simplified and very short, it could be seen as a Dutch World Bank in a way. And I started working for this bank 2.5 years ago, because I really thought that the financial industry needed a bit of a change of rationale, and I wanted to contribute to creating positive impact. Now, more specifically, Massif is one of the impact funds that is managed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by FMO. And it focuses on financial inclusion, so on frontier markets, on fragile livelihoods as well. Concretely, our strategy is really to focus on youth, women, rural population through financing of micro, small and medium enterprising.
Thanks. Jamal, you're here as well. I didn't even mention yet, you are the head of global business development for the Halt Price Foundation. What does that mean? What do you do there?
So yes, that was a previous hat that I used to wear to help roll out our programs for Halt Price globally. But right now I'm fully focused on the ChangeLab role as the co-founder and heading a lot of the operations there, as well as the Changemaker Festival. I hope you can hear me well. But yes, at the ChangeLabs, we are focused on empowering impact-focused startups across the MENA region through running accelerators, festivals, incubators.
Let me get back to both of you, because Jamal will see you in this next video in which he will interview about this topic, and when we come back, hopefully it will be fixed.
The Middle East is going through a challenging time. There are infrastructure challenges, there are transportation challenges, and there are healthcare challenges. ChangeLabs was created to help young people become part of the solution.
We believe in the potential of entrepreneurs. So our mission is to empower those entrepreneurs. That's why FMO especially invests in entrepreneurs, because we do believe that that's the engine of the growth of an economy.
By empowering entrepreneurs, we want to create a better world.
And we make them believe in their ideas, believe in themselves. Hello everyone, my name is Jamal Kayat. I'm the co-founder at ChangeLabs, reporting live from Amman, Jordan, as you can see behind me, where we're delivering yet another impactful program. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to join the Youth at Heart conference as part of the team with FMO and the Dutch Development Bank to tell you a little bit about the programs we're delivering in the MENA region, in Jordan, in Egypt. And we have some success stories from the accelerator programs that we were able to deliver in partnership with FMO. So very excited to be here. Everything we do is empowering youth. So it's amazing to be able to share our story with the international community. It's amazing to be able to give back and hopefully inspire another wave of entrepreneurs, another wave of youth change makers. Today, we have 2 such success stories from 2 founders from our program in Egypt that have graduated with us over the last 2 years. So let me tell you a little bit more about what they do and get a chance to introduce them.
Hi Jamal, it's always a pleasure to chat with you and with ChangeLabs.
So let me tell you about PraxiLabs. PraxiLabs is an online learning platform that provides students with interactive science labs to be able to access them at any time and from anywhere at an affordable cost, and that's always provided with total safety, and it enables students to be able to do experiments that are not doable even in the real labs. With the global e-learning market now continuously increasing and projected to exceed $330 billion by 2026, and a handful of competitors in virtual labs, there is a huge potential for our growth. So far, we reached more than 60,000 users coming from over 160 countries, and we've generated more than $500,000 in revenues. And some of our recent clients include top-ranked universities in the US, like Harrisburg University, as well as Texas A&M.
Hello, Jamal. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Firstly, thank you for hosting us with you today. Let me just introduce myself real quick. I'm Tariq Nuruddin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of OTO Courses. OTO Courses is the first and biggest online school that teaches English live, one-to-one in Egypt. We taught more than 25,000 learners so far. We have more than 150 teachers working with us, and we teach the employees of more than 25 companies, national and multinational. OTO Courses, it provides high-quality education for people from all over Egypt, from anywhere in the world, anywhere in Egypt. You can have your live one-to-one course. You pick your teacher, you pick your time, you pick your course, everything through our platform. It's very convenient, it's very easy, and we actually believe that English is one of the most important things in Egypt and the Arab world nowadays, because in order to find a good job, in order to be able to travel abroad, to get promoted, to be accepted in a scholarship, English is a must. So that's why OTO courses start with English, because it's the key enabler for all economic opportunities. And in our long-term plan, we're even expanding into more courses to help people to learn from anywhere in the world.
Always a pleasure to hear from Tariq and Khadija. And now that we know a little bit more about what they're doing, I wanted them to share with the audience a little bit more about the challenges that they face as they scale and build their businesses.
So one of the main challenges we've been facing and still facing is the investments put into the tech industry. And we believe we do need more focused funding opportunities, not only in Egypt, but in MENA region in general. Also adding to that, a problem that we've been facing, that clients are usually hesitant to work and to have services from startups, giving an assumption that startups led by youth are not as reliable and as competent as corporates, for example.
Well, there's a lot of challenges that will face any startup. Finding the right calibers to work with you is very hard. Also, the internet and the infrastructure in some of the governorates is not that well so far. So sometimes it affects the tech startups that try to reach all governorates.
Next, I wanted them to share a little bit about their experience with the Change Labs program, and if it made things a bit easier, hopefully, to share, some of the successes of partnerships like the one that we have with FMO.
So being part of Change Labs Accelerator program, which is in partnership with FMO, that provided us as PraxiLabs with huge exposure in two parts, not only to investors, but actually also to potential customers. The second thing would be the mentoring and the sessions that we've had with top experts. Adding to that, the amazing guidance and support by the whole team, not only the founders, Jamal and Kareem. And finally, practice sessions every week was very, very useful as a safe environment to keep trying and keep enhancing and sharing ideas and sharing advice and feedback as well.
Well, Change Labs and FMO really helped us with the opportunity that they gave us. Number one, through funding for sure. That helped us very much to expand and to continue developing our tech, and we're launching our mobile app very soon. Not only with the fund, but the amount of support that Change Labs gave us was amazing, and really thank you for this.
So there you have it, 2 success stories delivering impact from an impactful program in partnership with FMO. That's me, Jamal Khayat, signing out. If you have anything that we can help with when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to empowering youth, we're at your service. For now, I'll be hanging out in the Q&A section. If you have any questions for me, happy to take them.
Yeah, Jamal, signing off and signing in again right away. As we can see, you have been working all over the planet on this theme, entrepreneurship. How does the definition of entrepreneurship vary around the world is one of the questions we get in the chat.
Got it. Great question. So, I've been fortunate to be part of entrepreneurship ecosystems around the world. With the last about year, I've been focusing on the Levant region. And as we can see, entrepreneurship is more and more so the answer to solve a lot of the meaningful problems we see around the world. But when I look at the Middle East, you can see the proximity to problems being an opportunity to create models to solve them firsthand. So that's being a very exciting part of my job now. I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky for partnerships with FMO that allow me to be a part of this change that we see. Right. And then what you can look at in the ecosystem in the Middle East and the Levant area, we have a lot of programming in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Egypt, and you can see that it's now an up and coming and booming industry versus other places like San Francisco, where it's more mature. Here we get to see it and help build it from scratch, and there's a varying degrees of where the countries have reached in terms of their entrepreneurship know-how and expertise that we can get into as well. So that's kind of a big, quick summary about how we see the entrepreneurship ecosystems differently around the world.
Now I can see that there's differences in the definition, but you can also, there's another question from the chat, finding employment also differs from gender to gender. So for example, it's especially difficult for young women. How do you guys strive to provide equal access and opportunities for future female entrepreneurs?
Got it. So maybe let me share a quick statistic. Oh, sorry, is that for me?
First, Jamal, then Louisa, you can answer too.
Okay.
Great. So quick statistic I'd like to share is that when we look at entrepreneurship and small to medium enterprise, it's a really big part of what's driving economies and the GDP. So 40% of GDP in the MENA region and 50% of employment opportunities are coming from the startups and SMEs. So now we're seeing a bit of a cultural shift where there is a bit of more understanding on and awareness raising about what entrepreneurship is and how it contributes, right? We see a lot of barriers to entry that we can also talk about, more so for women than for men. Cultural norms already sometimes, you'll see parents, you'll see your peers, you'll see culturally that, you're supposed to be either a doctor, an engineer. You've heard this cliche before, or a lawyer. But more and more so through surveys and through what we're seeing from running our programs, we're seeing more youth coming into the table, and with that, more and more women applying to the job. So we're making sure that our messaging and the way we put our programs together caters to both genders effectively. We saw that happen very successfully in Lebanon and Egypt, where about 50%, up to 50% of applicants and founders were coming, were women entrepreneurs that are coming
to the roundup of this session. Let me ask Louisa, you wanted to answer also?
Yeah, so I think more in general, let's say a high-level term as a quite a large financier, what we also really try to do is to encourage our clients through financial institutions to engage more in those key segments. So that can be by trying to lower the risks in some cases, or the perceived risk quite often in the case of women of those markets. So for instance, we can provide guarantees to increase the exposure to those key sectors, and then it's also about going, I think, with a mission and some thematics that we have where we really say, okay, this funding needs to be used for women financing. I think, for instance, one of the
we have to round up the session. I want to thank you very much. We have 5 more questions from the chat, so let's continue in the chat and on social media. And for now, I want to thank you both for joining us, and you as a viewer, thanks for watching us as well. We're going to go on with the next session by Hanze University. Welcome back at Youth at Heart virtual forum here in the World Forum in The Hague. This is Studio Purple, in which we invite organizations for the spotlight sessions, and they will be in the spotlight for exactly 15 minutes. My name is Marcel Bamberg, and here with me in the studio from Hanze University is Loes Damhoff. Loes, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about the future. And a lot of people right now are thinking about the future of work, the future of education, the future of agency, future of leadership. And maybe because in these, what we perceive as uncertain times, it feels like that these questions are even harder to answer than usual. But there's good news, because there's a capability that is called futures literacy, and that helps young people, but basically everybody, to embrace uncertainty and how to take advantage of complexity and actually even appreciate it. And that's what we do at the Hanze University of Applied Sciences in Groningen. But I also brought some voices from the field to talk about future literacy that can help me explain how do you apply it into the field and what impact it has on your daily life. So what is it? This capability that is really well explained in a minute and a half in this explanation.
Okay, very good. Yep. Let's watch.
De toekomst bestaat niet. Toch gebruiken we het elke dag. We voorspellen, dromen en vrezen. We plannen, organiseren en beslissen gebaseerd op de toekomst. Toch weten we maar weinig over hoe we de toekomst moeten gebruiken. Futures literacy is de vaardigheid om inzicht te krijgen in hoe we anticiperen op de toekomst. Hiermee ontdekken we ons potentieel voor creatie en innovatie. Door studenten, docenten en professionals in futures literacy te trainen, ontwikkelen ze de vaardigheden die ze nodig hebben om complexiteit te begrijpen, gebruik te maken van verandering en onzekerheid te omarmen. In een wereld waarin alles met elkaar verbonden is, worden zij de agents of change die we nodig hebben. Hoe gebruiken we de toekomst? De toekomst zal nooit het heden bereiken. Onze anticipaties, plannen, dromen en angsten zijn gebaseerd op aannames, op dingen die we voor lief nemen. Wanneer we plannen maken, vergeten we vaak wat voor ons het belangrijkste is. Door deze aannames te onthullen en te onderzoeken, worden veel meer verschillende toekomsten mogelijk. Dit leidt tot beter geïnformeerde beslissingen en innovatieve ideeën. Kortom, we gebruiken de toekomst om het heden te innoveren. Futures literacy.
Yeah, hopefully it's become a little bit more clear what this capability is. And although we've been teaching this for about 4 years at the Hanze with partners all over the world, it doesn't come from the Netherlands. It actually stems from UNESCO. UNESCO has been practicing future literacy in future literacy workshops and labs all over the world. And my next guest, my first guest, is my good friend Eva. She will explain her connection to future literacy, how this came about at UNESCO, what you've been doing and why it is important to young people.
Je suis camerounaise et travaille en tant que responsable projet au sein de l'UNESCO sur le développement d'une compétence un peu particulière qu'on appelle la littératie des futurs ou Futures Literacy. Notre travail au sein de l'UNESCO, il est pluriel puisqu'on a un mandat qui s'attaque à l'éducation, la science et la culture, donc somme toute la connaissance. Et donc c'est tout particulier de parler justement du futur puisque le futur n'existe pas, donc comment le futur peut-il être objet de connaissance? Et bien c'est très simple, c'est qu'on passe d'une discussion sur des objets de connaissance pour avoir une discussion sur les acteurs de connaissance, diversifier les personnes qui ont le droit et qui se donnent le droit de se dire j'ai quelque chose à partager avec mon prochain. Donc pouvoir engager dans des discussions sur des valeurs, des discussions sur des thèmes symboliques qui sont forts, et c'est aussi tout l'intérêt d'avoir des acteurs comme l'UNESCO dans ce type de questions, c'est que nous ne sommes attachés à aucun attachement économique particulier. Effectivement, nous dépendons de nos États membres, mais ça nous permet en fait de couvrir une pluralité de thématiques. Des thématiques comme le futur des Syriens, du retour des Syriens, un sujet que je portais encore la semaine dernière, le futur de l'Amérique noire aux États-Unis, ou encore le futur de l'activisme que je portais avec l'EUS il y a quelques temps, ou un autre projet qu'on aura ensemble sur le futur de la philanthropie au Brésil. Pourquoi en fait ces thématiques-là? C'est parce qu'on a une approche qui est plus basée sur la demande, toujours partir d'une sorte de nivellement par le bas, avoir justement une pluralité d'acteurs. On peut travailler effectivement avec des États membres, aussi bien qu'avec des organisations non gouvernementales, des universités. Et l'UNESCO a ainsi développé ce qu'on appelle le réseau mondial de la littératie des futurs, qui couvre plus de 20 chaires dans le monde entier, y compris l'université de Hanze. Et c'est comme ça qu'on a pu se connaître avec l'EUS. Moi, à titre personnel, ça me parle sur plusieurs points, notamment ce qu'on appelle la décolonisation des savoirs, la décolonisation des êtres et la décolonisation de la terre, du rapport entre les êtres humains. Comment on peut porter des discussions d'égal à égal? Ça passe déjà par la reconnaissance de l'autre en soi et la reconnaissance de soi en l'autre. Et c'est en portant justement des activités qui permettent de discuter des valeurs qu'on peut le faire. Et je pense que c'est un message très fort pour notre génération à plusieurs titres. Déjà parce qu'on a souvent l'impression d'être impuissant, et cette impuissance vient directement de la connaissance. Est-ce que le fait de ne pas sentir suffisamment entendu vient aussi du fait qu'on a l'impression de ne pas pouvoir s'exprimer. Et donc le fait de jouer sur ces deux tableaux est extrêmement important pour nous en tant que jeunes, mais je pense que ça s'adresse aussi à toute minorité. D'une façon ou d'une autre, chacun est une minorité dans le monde dans lequel on évolue. Il y a des minorités qui sont plus fortes. J'appartiens à une minorité visible, plutôt à plusieurs minorités visibles qui sont évidentes. Et c'est sur ce point-là en fait que nous on veut pouvoir agir. Et donc je suis très contente que l'UNESCO et l'université de Hanze portent ces questions-là et qu'un série d'autres acteurs dans le monde le fassent également. Je vous remercie.
Yes, as you can see, UNESCO has been working with future literacy people like Eva, and doing these labs and workshops all over the world. But what does it really mean if you work with local champions, as we call them, on the ground to actually have young people participate in a future literacy workshop? What does that look like? And 2 years ago, I was very fortunate to work with Hai-Ha, my friend Hai-Ha, in Hanoi on a project through the United Nations on the future of gender equality in STEM education, and she will talk to us what her experience was to work with this methodology.
Hello, my name is Sahavuti and I'm a consultant for youth programming with UNESCO. I had the pleasure to work with Luz, John and Reel in designing a futures literacy lab called STEM Speak, where we gathered young STEM practitioners to rethink STEM education with a focus on gender equality. Now, I still remember at first how I pride myself to be very creative, to think in creative directions, but very quickly did I realize that I was still stuck in a box as how I define creativity, and that box only opened as we were implementing STEM Speak. So what made STEM Speak so special? It is mainly because of our participants who came from a wide range of STEM disciplines, from nanotechnology to biology, chemistry, mathematics, but also English or arts, who were teachers, artists, researchers, scientists, or just students who came together to collectively craft alternative futures, ranging from the used future to Wakanda and even beyond. And it was so enriching to observe how they have changed as we went along, phase after phase. And by the end of STEM Speak, they really came to the realization of we are not powerless. We have capabilities, we have skills to craft alternative futures. Knowing that the future is so uncertain, it can change every second, every minute, every hour, but it actually is in their hands to create the future that they want, that is more positive and that can enact positive change. But that requires collective intelligence, collaboration. And at that very positive and empowering note did we leave STEM Speak. And I think still today, this is the reason why some of the STEM speakers come back to me and ask, when are we organizing STEM Speak 2.0? Because they realize the importance of that empowerment throughout STEM Speak. And I think amid COVID-19 and global challenges like climate change, it is more important than ever. So Luz, Jen and I were also quite intrigued to see, are there any long-term impacts after a 2-3 day training? So what we are going to do now is to reconvene with some of the STEM speakers to better understand how their using the future today, and if there are any long-term impacts that we can somehow measure. So if you are looking for like a tool that can unleash the potential of your societies, and that emphasizes on creativity and innovation and critical thinking, I really think this is the tool to go. And even though we don't have the results of that study yet, I am really certain that you can't do wrong with futures literacy. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, as I was saying, very empowering tool and methodology to use, but what is the long-term impact when you participate in a workshop like that? And therefore I would like to talk to an old student of mine, Sebastian, who just about what his future literacy has done to his decision-making in his life, personally. Hi, Sebastian.
Hey. Good afternoon.
How are you doing? Look, I just want to talk to you briefly, because you've been working with future literacy for a few years now. How has it impacted your life? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, sure. I think that in general, I have to say that futures literacy is a lot about opening up opportunities instead of seeing restrictions in something. And I've been able to, I had the opportunity to become a facilitator in futures literacy, and therefore, and hereby also facilitate in a lot of labs and travel around to participate in some. And it has really enabled me to, what I said, go beyond the restrictions and putting yourself into a box, but to see opportunities and also a lot of learning opportunities in my field of studying in international politics.
Right. And you're saying you facilitate labs. Can you give an example of one you did recently?
Yeah, recently I went, we went to Somaliland and facilitated a lab for people, young leaders in Somaliland. And I had the opportunity to train them in futures literacy. And that was a great experience because you're not only because of the current pandemic, you're not only able to go there physically, but more so in a digital world. And what impressed me the most there was that you can really feel the impact through the screen. It might sound weird, but in that sense, we were really connected to these people, even though I've never seen them in my life. But I was able to connect with them in a digital way.
Okay, thank you so much. We need to move on, but thanks, Sebastian.
So, Loes, I got a question in the chat from someone who's watching. The question was, in Dutch we have this saying, leven lang leren.
Lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning. How can future literacy be something for all ages, or is it something for youth only?
No, it's definitely, everybody uses the future. Even babies use the future, even plants use the future when they drop their leaves, and older people too. So this is all about becoming aware of how we anticipate and how we use the future. So it's definitely for all ages. We see sometimes that young people tend to be more optimistic, although now maybe that is changing a little bit. But people of all ages, all background, it is a great tool for people to come together on an even playing field to negotiate futures. Because the thing is, nobody owns the future. Young people do not, older people do not. So when we go to the far future of 2050 or 2060, nobody is an expert. And that makes it a great playing field to negotiate shared meaning, to discuss what we find is really important, and ultimately feel more empowered.
Thanks, Loes. It was really interesting. Also, thanks to all the speakers you talked to. Yeah. And for now, we will round up this session. Keep asking questions for the next sessions, because the next session that's up will be Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and Melody will be here again. See you then.
Welcome back to Studio Purple. We are here at the Youth at Heart Virtual Forum, live from The Hague, the World Forum. Thanks for staying with us. If you're tuning just in, let me tell you what we are doing here. We are at the Youth at Heart Forum, where we're talking about youth employment, about work, and we're putting the youth at the center of it. We have 9 different organizations coming in the spotlight and telling us about what they are doing to tackle these challenges. And today we are going to talk with Joost Verwilgen and another Joost and Josh. So we have 3 similar named gentlemen with us to talk about the challenges of youth employment in Uganda. Before I'm going to introduce you to the ones that we have virtually with us, I want to first go actually to you, our viewers, because you can interact with us through the chat box, you can interact with us through social media, but we also have a poll question for you in this session. Let us cut to the case. So when we talk about youth employment and the challenges, we also talk about the informal setting. Youths that are working in the informal setting have less stability, less security, and they are usually also paid less. So this is a high problem. And in Uganda, a young-dominated population, I want to ask to you, which proportion of the Ugandan youth between 15 and 29 years old do you think works in the informal setting? Is that 43.5%, 63.5%, or 83.5%? You can get voting. We will get to you at the end of the session. But before that, let me welcome you, Joost Verwilgen, your team leader at the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment. We're going to talk a bit more about that, but we also invited 2 of your implementers from Uganda that can give us more insights in the work they do in the country. But first of all, if no one has heard before about the Youth Challenge Fund, can you explain a little bit what you're doing and why do you think it's so important for you to have a decent job?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I mean, first of all, delighted to be here. Great program, by the way, that we've seen today, so thank you very much for that. Well, the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment is an initiative that was started by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, implemented by Palladium VSO and Randstad. And the overarching aim of the Challenge Fund is to create jobs, decent jobs, 50% of which should be for women, for youth in sub-Saharan Africa and the MENA region. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we do this? The Challenge Fund is basically like any other Challenge Fund. We invite parties to come up with solutions, with ideas on how to tackle the unemployment for youth in countries. The way we do this mainly is actually through private sector, because we see that a lot of the demands actually, there's a shortage of jobs. Mm-hmm. So our sort of entry point is very much the private sector, but very much welcome them to work with NGOs, with knowledge institutes and training institutions. So our first round when we started was, I think we started about a year ago, was in Uganda. And well, we're quite delighted actually that we have been able to select 7 implementing partners for Uganda, and 2 of whom actually are with us here today to tell a little bit more about their initiative.
Can you tell briefly about the background of the youth employment in Uganda?
Yeah, I mean, the youth unemployment challenge in Uganda is not atypical. I mean, it's very similar to what we see in many of the other sort of sub-Saharan African countries. The working population, the youth that are looking for jobs, is expected to double by 2040. Every year, that means there is about 1 million new entrants to the job market. I mean, needless to say, I mean, that's high. It's really a big challenge. It's also a great opportunity, and again, that's why we are looking for implementing parties that are going to pick up that challenge and actually work with that. It also means that we're very much, I mean, in Uganda in particular, we very much targeted it from the demand side. So, I mean, organizations that are looking for qualified young professionals, youth basically, who want to pick up jobs. So it's not just about looking at these individual companies, but also looking at intermediaries like who are working with SMEs, with small and medium enterprises. But also looking at people who are organizations that are working towards entrepreneurship. I think we've got 2 great partners here.
Let's go to them then, speaking of which. So yeah, we have 2 of your implementing partners in Uganda. I'm going to introduce you. First of all, I wanted to start with Balloon Ventures. But before I introduce you, let's go to a clip that actually explains what Balloon Ventures does, and then we'll introduce the founder.
I'm called Katwesige Monique. I've been here for almost 11 years now.
I always wanted to do my own business. It gives you somehow peace of mind. At the beginning it wasn't easy because customer didn't know me, so the turn-up used to be very slow. When I just started, I had one worker. I have 4 people right now.
My name is Chelmo Sam. I'm studying in Shasha Bakery. I've been in baking for around like 3 years. I employ around 20 employees. Right now I can produce 400 to 700 loaves. We sell to supermarkets, we sell to farms, we sell to schools, we sell to very many other people.
I would like to grow this business more. I'd like to see more workers like making jewelry and help the youth to gain more skills also.
What this baker is doing in this community really is doing something very great. I have employed very many of the youths within this community. I remember one of the boys whom I taught, he's now outside there, he's working out of the skill that I gave it to him.
So this is Balloon Ventures, and I want to welcome you, Josh Bicknell. Thanks for joining us virtually. So we just watched what Balloon Ventures did. Can you tell us what is unique in what you do and why you think it's so important, the approach that you are taking?
Yeah, hi everyone, nice to be here. So yeah, the big problem as we see it in Uganda is not necessarily unemployment. You know, the unemployment levels are quite low. It's actually informal employment. So because there's no medium-sized enterprises providing these good jobs, people are forced to go out and start their own. And so what we do at Balloon is we try and find those exceptional entrepreneurs like Monique and Sam that are running very traditional business, and we help them to grow, because many of these businesses, they get stuck, and they get stuck for a couple of reasons. One of which is they can't get access to funding because they're considered too high risk. But the second reason is really that they don't have the management foundations to grow. So they don't have, you know, bookkeeping, planning, good HR. So we try and fix those two. We provide investments to enable them to grow and expand. And then we have a team of local staff who work with them for 12 to 36 months to implement those foundations and to help them grow, to shift their existing employees onto contracts that pay living wage, and to help them create new jobs as they scale and grow. And so it's really about unlocking this potential of small businesses to scale and create these good jobs that's so needed.
Yeah, and well, if I can then cut to the case immediately, what are you going to do with the support of the Challenge Fund? How are you going to use that in the approach that you use?
Yeah, so we've been playing, you know, with this massive problem for kind of 8 to 10 years now, and we've tried various things along the way. So we're very lucky that we've been supported along the journey by some other fantastic organisations, people like Global Innovation Fund, our Gideas Foundation, and we've piloted this, and we've reached the point where it's really working. The goal is to create a model that's financially sustainable, that can scale across sub-Saharan Africa and, you know, help to unlock potentially 50 million jobs, which is what this group could create. And so, yeah, we've run this pilot, we've got to 40% sustainability, and now we really want to go the whole level and prove that the model works at scale, and that it can be fully financially sustainable. And so the Challenge Fund is an amazing opportunity that comes in at this point to help us continue growing and hopefully proving that this model works, to then, support other people and crowd in other organizations to do it in their own geographies.
Thank you. And I'm sorry we have to keep it short because we only have 50 minutes, and I want to also put healthy entrepreneurs in the spotlight. Joost van Enge, I will introduce you after the short clip, and we are going to watch it to understand what Healthy Entrepreneur does.
Healthy Entrepreneurs improves this situation by training local people to start their own mini pharmacy. These entrepreneurs sell basic products and provide information and advice about healthcare. Our model works like this. Entrepreneurs are selected and trained to become healthy entrepreneurs. They invest $50 in advance and participate in a course. They receive a starter kit on credit with healthcare products and a tablet with advice and information. To keep the quality of products high, Healthy Entrepreneurs manages a fully integrated supply chain, from providing reliable and affordable products to direct delivery to our entrepreneurs on site. In only 5 years' time, our entrepreneurs have created access to basic health for more than 4 million men, women, and children. This means that villages in remote areas transform into healthy communities, and the future prospects of local entrepreneurs are drastically improved.
Healthy Entrepreneurs, and with us is the founder of it, Joost van Enge. Welcome, Joost. So we watch what Healthy Entrepreneur does, and you provide last mile basic healthcare. There are more organizations doing that in entrepreneurship and the health sector. What makes Healthy Entrepreneur unique in that matter?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Healthy Entrepreneurs is an organization, it's a social business. We are running a model which is financially sustainable, and we're doing that by actually bridging a gap in the market. There is a need, especially in the very last mile, the most remote areas, most hard to reach areas, where people are having high transport costs to acquire access to healthcare. And this is where Healthy Entrepreneurs comes in. We are offering a model where we mobilize, as you could see in the movie, young people running their business, qualified people that can serve a number of products and services in the market according to law, and we empower them to do accordingly. We don't, next to investments and challenge funds like this, we do not need additional money coming in there, and therefore we are a game changer, different from the traditional projects that have been run in the past. So in the system, we are, from a health perspective, a game changer, and at the same time, we have learned over time that we are able to enable a lot of job opportunities, and that's where the Challenge Fund comes in.
And how are you, the same question for you, how is the Challenge Fund going to support you in that sense? What plans do you have with the fund?
The Challenge Fund is actually, it's very fascinating. When we started a year ago, and as Joost mentioned, that's also when we got to know about the fund, we realized that we are actually an organization that recruits a lot of people. So we are able with the Challenge Fund to grow our network with 20,000 community health entrepreneurs in Uganda only, which will enable us to have a nationwide network. And for us, it has been very fascinating in the process to get to this challenge, because we also learned much more about women empowerment. We learned much more about decent jobs and how these techniques can help us to actually offer a better service to our community health entrepreneurs, and so the sustainability of our business. So it's a very interesting win-win. I love it. It's fantastic.
And Joost, I actually have a very interesting question from the chat box for you by Theodore Klauvas. He's asking, what is the role of men in supporting female entrepreneurship?
Very interesting, very good question too. In our case, we are working with 85% women who are actually running the network, who are community health entrepreneurs. They are in many cases supported by their husband, but there's also cases where it's not. So actually part of the Challenge Fund is also to develop additional tools and support to help the women to get much more support of their men. In many cases, it's still traditional. We are providing credits, and they're not always used to it. So definitely there is not a turnkey solution. We found ways, but definitely this is something we will keep on working on together with also the technical assistance we get from the Challenge Fund.
And I see all the three gentlemen nodding. I would love to continue the discussion a bit further about how you can work also on the female entrepreneurship and have more questions from the chat box. One other question I want to ask, and I'm going to ask this to Josh, what solutions will you give to young migrants in fragile situations that need to get a job? So the really, really remote and vulnerable people. By Javier Cardoso is this question.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that there's a lot of innovations happening in the major cities, in places like Kampala, Nairobi and Kenya, but very, very few organizations are working outside of those. So we focus in eastern Uganda, in places like Mbale, where there are a lot of refugees. And it's really about helping businesses there to grow and scale so that they create jobs that then those people can get access to. And also providing, a level playing field, so that anybody can apply for those jobs and can get them. So that's really our focus, working outside of the capitals in these areas that are often ignored and finding these,
interrupt you here because we are going to the time. It's a very, very great. It's really in the 15 minutes. Yeah. So I want to thank you, all of you. And please, let's continue in the chat box and continue these conversations on the social media, where we talk not only about youth employment, but the importance of the formal setting for youth to be employed. Giving you the answers from the poll, the majority, 43%, had it correct, that actually 83.5%, so that's quite a lot, of youth in Uganda between 15 and 29 years old is in the informal sector. Thank you all. Please keep following Healthy Entrepreneurs, Balloon Ventures, but also the Challenge Fund and the other 5 implementers that they have in Uganda to tackle this challenge. Thank you, Joost, and Josh, and let's continue the discussion. And we're going to move to the next spotlight session with UN 75. Thank you.
Welcome to Youth at Heart Virtual Forum, and welcome to the last of 9 spotlight sessions in which different organizations will get the spotlight here in Studio Purple, where we ask you to interact with us, ask us questions and give suggestions for discussion. And now we are going to talk about the celebration, about a birthday actually, the birthday of the United Nations. And here with me is Mert Koenroe, youth representative for the Netherlands on human rights and security.
Exactly.
And also with me is Paul Bjoerdal, who is involved in the celebrations. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
It's good. It's a windy day in New York, but we're doing good here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're calling in from New York. My question would be, what do you do for this project? It's the UN 75, 70 years of United Nations. What does that mean, celebrating their birthday?
Well, it's interesting you say that because, and first of all, I just want to thank you for inviting us into this event and congratulating you on the success of it, because it's a major undertaking, I know, and it's wonderful that you place youth at the heart of these conversations on the future. Well, yes, you're right. It is the 75th birthday of the UN. But when the Secretary General decided on how he wanted us to celebrate, he didn't want us to have a normal celebration. He wanted us to have a reflection on the future, on the state of affairs as it looks now, and on people's aspirations. So in the context of, as he had said himself, we're in surplus of multilateral challenges and a deficit of multilateral solutions. We're in a situation where we're in a retreat from multilateralism. We see a rise of super friction, power friction, and rise of isolationism and ad hoc shifting alliances. So basically, we're in a situation where multilateralism is not working great at the moment, and the Secretary General wants us to have a conversation to listen to we the peoples, to especially listen to youth about their aspirations for the future, what they want to see and how they want the UN to be relevant to address the future challenges of our times. And we've listened to now more than 1.2 million people, Almost 50% of them are young people in the age of between 16 and 30. And we heard a lot of interesting things. And I think, I understand at some point we'll see a little bit of film that also shows and demonstrates some of our findings. But it's a really interesting undertaking, and we heard a lot of clear messages from the youth that we appreciate, and that will set us on an interesting course for driving change for the future.
Thanks, Paul. Mert, that sounds good. You can't be against that, but we'll see the video first to see what we're talking about actually.
Sounds good.
Our world is facing unprecedented challenges. Climate change is altering natural balance. And our precious wildlife is struggling to survive. We are battling a new era of conflict and violence. There's the disruptive impact from digital technologies and shifting demographics with gaping inequalities. Now, a global epidemic is reshaping our world as we know it. We are at a crossroad at a time when our world seems so divided. Our world is struggling to breathe. For the United Nations 75th anniversary, we set out to ask the world, what are your hopes for your future?
If you could choose one thing to say to the UN, to world leaders about the future, what would that be?
In January 2020, the United Nations launched a global initiative to have the world's largest conversation on the future we want. Discussions have taken place in all settings, from classrooms to boardrooms, parliaments to village halls across the world, in order to reach as many people as possible. The United Nations listened, and the world spoke.
Justice, equality, and freedom for all.
People can really be in peace and with dignity, because our dignity was taken away from us because of our religion and because of who we are. And I hope that we are the last community who are suffering of those problems.
Health is often looked at as an expense. It is not. It is an investment.
We change by exchanging without losing ourselves.
We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter.
More than ever before, we need solidarity, hope, and the political will to see this crisis through together.
From what we have heard, the world is not as divided as we thought. The global economy, healthcare, sanitation, education, and the hardest places hit are our top priorities from recovering from the pandemic. In response to COVID-19, greater international solidarity is urgently needed. The threat of climate change and destruction of our natural environment is the biggest fear for the future. We need increased efforts to reduce conflict and violence, and we aspire to further protect human rights. For optimism about our future, we need to look to our young people. The overwhelming majority of us believe global cooperation is more vital than ever.
Every time we fail to find solutions to global challenges, the most vulnerable people in our societies are hit the hardest.
Throughout history, we have accomplished unimaginable things, propelling each generation further than the last. There is no limit to the amount of good we can achieve together to make this world, our world, a better place. The challenges before us are universal, and we know that these challenges demand global solutions. We have the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The Sustainable Development Goals. In 2045, the United Nations 100th year, Let's see the change we have implemented today that will shine a light on our children's tomorrow.
Change is coming. The real power belongs to the people.
And I want to turn the question inside out as well. I will not ask, how dare you? Instead, I will ask, do you dare to?
This is the most urgent of times and the most urgent of messages. Now must be our moment for action.
Yeah, and with Leonardo DiCaprio we end. Mert, you asked me, let's talk about the celebration of the birthday of the United Nations. We'll watch a movie. I had different expectations. This is rather depressing, don't you think?
In a way it is, but in a way you could see and maybe also feel that this short movie, the snippet of it, is also inspiring, maybe. I mean, when I saw, the first time when I saw this, I got the literal chills. And when you hear young people such as Greta talk about our future, our common future, there is a sense and there is the notion that young people generally do not understand these topics, but that is just, in my personal opinion, obviously, in the opinion of the youth in general, just total nonsense. We do know what the future will entail, and we do know how we can actually contribute to that future. All we ask for is a hand instead of like the finger that we are getting often right now.
In this video, as well as in discussions about this topic, we hear the words future and hopeful a lot. Now, for you as a youth representative, what should the role of youth be in that future and hope?
That is an excellent question. The thing is, current day policies will have the longest effect for future generations. So it only makes sense that those future generations are part of the consultation and part of the decision making. So what we propose and what we say is invite them at that table, allow them to negotiate and allow them to permanently and also structurally contribute to the solutions. That's what we basically ask for.
And you say the problem is not that they don't want to join, because when I see these kind of things, you might get the feeling, well, it doesn't matter anymore. It's not on my behalf. We'll see.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that a lot of young people tend to have the same idea in the beginning, but then when they see inspiring young other people that also try to engage and try to voice their opinions for either international protests or other youth-led engagements, you can tend to try to inspire each other and then eventually follow through to make the change that you want to see in the world.
Now, Paul, you were talking about, for example, a global dialogue in which you have consulted a lot of people as well, maybe older people, but a lot of youth especially. Now, what were the most striking findings from those global dialogues?
Thank you for that question. And I think I'll just kind of echo also what Mert says, that really the voices and that we heard of the youth, that's so critical for this conversation, because it's about their future and it's about their stake in the future. And that's why it was so interesting. I'll make 3 points in terms of what we heard from youth in our, there was a lot of things, but 3 main things. First, climate change and a healthy planet. Clearly, youth want to see a planet that's in much more healthy state than the current one is, and with the current outlooks. So, I mean, an overwhelming majority, when it comes to their future outlooks, asks us to prioritize both conservation of the environment and also when they're stating what is the key concern. It's really the change of the climate and not seeing it going in the right direction. That's the first thing. The second thing, and as you touched upon, actually, this film, of course, yes, there is a lot of not great things happening in the world. You can get pessimistic by seeing it. We also hope that it gives a certain encouragement towards the end, that there is voices from the youth that will take us forward and that can create the change we need to see to make our planet and make our international community in a better stage. And that's what we hear from people as well, is that that the youth are more optimistic about the future than the older generation, which is a tremendous source of encouragement and positivism. So that's really, I think, a key thing we need as the older generation as well to bring with us into the next consultations, both on climate change and on nuclear disarmament and other major issues that one needs to tackle. Inequality is a second thing as well that youth are very concerned about. They want to see us addressing social injustice, racial injustice, gender injustice, xenophobia against migrants and refugees at a much tougher way than we have, and find solutions where we can look at ourselves as an international community whilst also taking care of our national and local communities. This notion that you're either internationalist or nationalist, I think that's very strongly refuted by youth, that you can actually take care of your own national interests whilst also being an international champion. Lastly and quickly, quality education and decent job also came up as a key thing. Chiefly also and a concern of rebuilding after the COVID pandemic, but also kind of looking to the future where the job market is changing rapidly. Technology is changing the nature of work. Certainly, I'm not a part of the very older generation yet, but even my education when I was educated 20 years back looks very differently than it just does now, and the jobs and the skills that youth will need to adapt to that, and that's also a concern and issue that raised where also the international community should pay attention.
Thanks a lot, Paul. What about you, Mert? Are you an optimist?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I'm an optimist that is heavily involved on this matter, and I think that the youth automatically is in a way optimistic because we are eventually the generation or the generations that are going to live in a time that we don't know yet anything about. So in a way, you need to be optimistic in order to not lose yourself in all of these horrific tragedies we see all around the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that we should also reflect upon what the UN themselves have for role in this effort. And we see that a lot of young people do not necessarily understand in which way they can contribute to the solutions. And we therefore would like to say to them that you need to organize yourself, you need to come together to become a force they actually need to be reckoned with. And we therefore would love to see that happening on a larger scale. And we also ask for the UN themselves to participate and to facilitate in that. Because what we always say is, if you just saw all those violent revolutions in the beginning, and if you want to prevent violent revolutions, you should allow and facilitate societal evolution. And that's what we ask for, and that's what we are trying to resonate the entire time.
Let's hope to be able to celebrate the next 75 years of United Nations with a lot of progress. Thanks for joining us. Paul Bjordal from New York. What time is it where you are right now?
It's 10:15 in the morning, so we still have a good ways to go on this day.
Have a nice day then. Mert, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And Melody, join me because we have come to the end of 9 spotlight sessions in total. Thank you to our speakers for this session. This was the end of this session. And this means that we're at the end of the entire day.
Yeah. Well, it went by pretty fast, I would say, and I got kind of used to our little Studio Purple living room setting. Do we still have some questions from the chat for Mert? Or are we rounding up our entire Pulper?
There are a lot of questions, but there's no room to ask all of those questions, so I'm sorry.
Then let's get back to you at the viewers. Thanks a lot for joining us for all the 9 spotlight sessions that we had in Studio Purple. It was delightful to have you all with us, to have you in the chat and have you watching us. And be reminded that you can watch all of this, you can rewatch it and reshare and repost any session. And please do continue following the organizations that we put in the spotlight for you today. Thanks to all of our guests, all of our speakers and everyone involved. And thank you, Marcel. We had a lot of fun, I guess, here, and I had.
And we're going to find some plans for our house,
to bring home,
yeah.
Exactly. And I hope you have a nice living room too. Thanks for being with us.
Ciao.